What is up, everyone, and welcome to the first annual, but the first ever Movie House Awards on YouTube and in podcast form. Eventually, Ryan, we'll get there, but today joining myself is one of my boys. I mean, we've been doing a couple of things over on the Movie House podcast feed, but it's great to have you here with me, man. This is exciting. A lot of things to reveal. All of the votes are in, everything that you all voted for. Today, we're going to reveal the winners. And first off, Ryan Snelling, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I love how you started off with a but statement, even though you just said the same thing twice. You said, it's the first annual Movie House Awards, but it's also the first ever. As
first
if they
ever,
mean two completely different things. No, I'm so excited that we are finally here. You and I have been discussing this off air, trying to figure out how we're going to do this. So we've had a lot of time with the winners and the losers. We're pumped to reveal this, but also excited by the response that we got, right? So we tallied up the votes earlier. I think just over 1,600 people contributed to the poll. And I'm very thankful to your subscribers that contributed. I'm very thankful to the Movie House podcast feed listeners that contributed to this thing. I'm very thankful to my mom who voted, even though she's seen maybe 10% of the movies that are considered. Probably not even that. So thanks, Mom. I'm excited, man. I'm super thrilled and grateful, and we're not even done yet.
No. Oh, man. There are a lot of interesting things, too. And I noticed when I did the video on my YouTube channel, I mean, the comments, the response was fantastic. Everyone was so excited about the idea of this award show and the fact that they get the chance to vote. You know, there were also some within that comment section, which is fine. You know, you're allowed to feel this way. And everyone was so confident that, well, obviously, I mean, Austin's got a comic book-based channel, so that's going to sweep the entire awards, and the movies that we all think are going to win each category are definitely going to win, right? Well, that actually wasn't the case, man. There were some shocking results here, some movies that I knew would take home the victory, and then some that I'm just like, wow. You know, and a lot of those I agree with, but it's crazy that it actually came to fruition.
Right. Yeah, I think what I'm most shocked by, and I don't have a relationship with most of your subscribers, but what I'm most shocked by, if I can just generalize people on YouTube, you have a great audience. Because for the most part, your comments section, whenever they would criticize the nominations, I was kind of understanding. Like, I agreed with a lot of the points they make, and since we've created this thing, I realized I would have changed several things that we did live on that podcast feed. There's one category that I'm disappointed in both of us in, how we arrived to certain conclusions.
Yes.
But there's also other things that we did live, impromptu, that worked out. At the last minute, I won't reveal what it is, but one of the first categories that we dealt with on the podcast feed, we declared the nominations, and then when we reviewed it right before we were leaving, I did a quick switch and decided to take one nominee out and put one right back in, and that ended up being like the right decision. There's a few calls that you made on the nominations that actually we benefited from because you made your voice heard and let me know what your listeners might be into, and you were absolutely right based on what the voters said. And yeah, it's just been a really interesting off-air experience.
Oh man, I'm so, and I hate to use it. I'm like a proud dad. I'm proud of the way people voted, man. I'm proud of the way that they responded. It makes me so happy that, and I freaking love my audience on YouTube, man. And a lot of those comments I was talking about, and that's fine. Expectation, no one can control the way that they feel about where voting could go, right? But a lot of the points they made, and there are a couple categories, we'll get to them. I'm sitting there going, yeah, maybe we left that off. Yeah. Or yeah, maybe we put a movie on there that shouldn't have been on there. And that's what it's all about. It's about learning and progressing and feeding off of each other, both you and I and us and the audience. So I'm excited to get into this, man. Anything else you need to talk about before we get into this? And if not, we'll get right into category number one.
I don't think so. I think people are going to be excited because this will probably be a shorter ceremony than the podcast. That podcast was 2.5 hours. Guys, if you want to listen to it just so you can hear the Movie House podcast feed, it is there for you. Check out the Nominations podcast with myself and Austin Burke. Any other show on there as well, movie reviews, upcoming TV recaps, things like that. But most importantly, thank you to you for hosting this on your YouTube channel before we get started. And I'm ready to get this going whenever you are.
Yeah, people were probably getting annoyed with me because every comment they're like, how did you come to this decision? I'm just like, go check out the podcast, because it really was, man. It was a 2.5 hour insane sequence of event, but it was so much fun. Loved talking to you, man. That was one of the coolest podcasts I've ever done. So if you want to know how we came to these conclusions on the nominees, go check that out. But right now we're going to get into category number 1. So we are starting with Best Stunt Work. The nominees are Ford v. Ferrari, John Wick Chapter 3, Hobbs and Shaw, Shadow, and Alita Battle Angel. And the winner of this category, with 74% of the vote, John Wick Chapter 3. Boom. Oh my goodness, what a beatdown John Wick had.
I know. So, guys, right off the bat, this category, it has our steepest drop-off. When you consider the votes, it is the steepest drop-off of this entire awards ceremony. So, John Wick 3 got 1,187 votes. That's 74%. Number 2 was Ford v. Ferrari. It got 254 votes. So yikes. That is nearly a 900 vote. I can double check real quick and get the actual number, but it's the steepest drop off of the entire awards ceremony with 933 votes difference. Pretty crazy.
I really hope the Super Bowl is more competitive than this weekend, because this was, I mean, dude, just laid the hammer down, man. And we all knew John Wick Chapter 3, but you watch the movie, you understand why. So I absolutely think people got this right. A great way to start the show.
I agree, 100%. So congratulations to Keanu Reeves, John Wick 3, Chad Stahelski, 7-Eleven stunt team. Great job. All right, so we're going to keep with the technical categories here. So, best visual effects. Our nominees are Alita Battle Angel, Shadow, Ad Astra, Avengers Endgame, and The Lion King. Can you do a drum roll as good as I did?
Nope, that was bad.
And the winner, Avengers Endgame, with 57% of the vote. What do you think about this? Where are you at with the visual effects in Avengers Endgame?
You know, I'm even more shocked with what got second in this category, because I would have put money on the fact that it was The Lion King. Say what you will about the movie, the visual effects are outstanding, but our number 2 was Ad Astra, and 57% of the vote going to Endgame. Obviously, it wasn't close with 275 votes, but everyone knew Endgame was going to get this. If it's going to win a category, assuredly, it's going to be visual effects, because I thought the visual effects were outstanding. Were there a couple of moments with noticeable CGI? Sure, but when you're on a giant battlefield with thousands and thousands of characters, of course that's going to happen. So I thought it looked fantastic, man. How about you?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think Avengers Endgame, obviously phenomenal special effects, and probably more special effects shots than any. Well, I guess you could put it up against. Actually, no, it would have more, just based on the fact it's a 3-hour movie versus a 2-hour movie with The Lion King.
True.
So you're right. I think with all of the movies listed, Avengers Endgame also has the least best visual effects, because sometimes it does go in and out with those movies. But I also take away the idea that not enough people have seen Shadow, because
I agree.
In both categories that we've already mentioned here today, this specifically got 29 votes, and in Best Stunt Work, it got 30. So just not enough saw that movie, but I'm glad we snuck it in there. I think the ones that pushed the technology forward the most would arguably be Lion King and Alita Battle Angel, but they were on the bottom end. But, I mean, I don't have a problem with the winner either, because so much of it was super impressive.
Yeah, that's how I feel about a lot of these, and there are a couple of categories where that last movie barely received any votes, and I'm just like, well, at least we snuck it in, because, you know, we came up with the nominees and we wanted these movies to be represented. We're going to move on to Best Cinematography, and the nominees are Parasite, 1917, The Lighthouse, Waves, and Midsommar. And our winner, with 60% of the vote, is 1917. No surprise here, Ryan. I think this is, for me, this was the easiest of the technical categories. Just you watch the movie, and I don't know if you have seen it yet since we recorded last. I know you hadn't, but oh my goodness, I think it deserves this for sure. I
love the comments on your YouTube video. They were like, you should probably try and at least see the movies that you're considering. I just felt like that was a personal burn towards me because there's so many movies on here. Well, not so many. There's a few movies that I have not seen, and to this day, I still have not seen 1917. But
go see it, man.
I have an awareness of this movie. I get it. People love it. You love it. I understand why this won, and I understand why it got 60% of the vote, so you don't have to tell me. I'm actually also just wanting to point out, but that, by the way, the Lighthouse came in second place with 348 votes. I'm just going to throw that out there because I may or may not want to talk about the Lighthouse in another category later.
Ooh, okay. All right. Yeah, man, that number 2 and number 3 with Parasite, that's expected, but with 348, that's honestly, maybe 100 more than I anticipated it to get just because 1917 was so high up in that category. So yeah, man, impressed with that show out for the Lighthouse.
It's also interesting that I'm not going to give you shit because I trust you, but you fought hard for Waves on the podcast and it came in dead last. Yeah. Now, but I don't remember what my option was. So I'm not even going to take the time to brag, but I just wanted to point that out.
I just think nobody's seen the movie.
Fair. I think it's available on VOD now, by the way.
Yeah, I still have people asking me. They were like, "Where'd you see Waves?" I'm like, "Guys, it's been a couple weeks. I mean, I'm sure it's somewhere on VOD or something like that." But yeah, I mean that's one movie that I didn't think. But between that and I think my other one was Portrait of a Lady on Fire that I fought for. I think both of those are just, gosh, man, top. When you see it, man, I promise you'll get it.
So the nominees for Best Score are Us, 1917, Joker, Avengers Endgame, and Marriage Story. And our winner is Joker. Yeah. The composer is gonna mess this up. Hildur, I don't know a lot of these letters. Guanadoder? Hildur Guanadoder. I'm not really sure. A lot of symbols going on in there. I am so sorry, but hey, shout out to you. I believe she won a Golden Globe for this.
Yes.
And it is a fantastic score. So well done. I think you're surprised that this knocked out Avengers Endgame with almost more than double the vote.
Yeah, that's not surprised that it won, but I'm surprised by how much it won. And I'm honestly surprised there wasn't a higher showing for 1917 either. Because those two are the lead dogs at the Oscars right now. I am happy that Endgame got second because I've been fighting hard for Silvestri for quite some time. But, man, this category kind of surprised me with how things turned out. But a lot of love for Joker, and that is my personal favorite score of the year. So I'm not upset. It's good.
You should be.
All right.
It is a good score.
It's a great score, man. So next up, we're going to move into... separate ourselves a bit from the technical categories. This is Best Ensemble, and the results are a bit shocking. So we have Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Little Women, Knives Out, Avengers Endgame, and The Irishman. And our winner, with 33% of the vote, this was close, but Knives Out is our victor in this category, man. This... For me, I couldn't believe. I'm happy because, like some people in my comment section, I was afraid Avengers Endgame was going to win everything, and I love that movie. But it's like we need some other. But this is great, man. How do you feel about Ensemble?
Well, there's a lot of great surprises here today, and this is absolutely one of them. So,
yes, love it.
I went ahead and listed all of this out in a Google Doc. That way, we'd be prepared because for the most part, we could already predict what was going to win based on the incredible lead that certain movies had, right? So this was one of the ones that came down to the wire. There's only a difference of 53 votes between Knives Out and Avengers Endgame. And I surely to God thought that Avengers Endgame would win. Just because not only is the ensemble just greater, and it's a greater achievement to have a greater ensemble in a movie and have it work, all of those characters are so fleshed out by the time you get to that movie, whereas Knives Out has again, another incredible ensemble, but some of them aren't as fleshed out as the others. Some of them just clearly don't appear on screen as much as some of our leads. So it's more uneven with Knives Out. But I think this really speaks to how taken people are with this movie. And I'm not going to speak on it entirely right now, but I think you and I are able to make generalizations. Sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, about this online film community.
Yes.
And there is certainly a Rian Johnson bias out there that I don't think you and I subscribe to, but it's very real post Last Jedi. So the fact that that bias exists and he's still able to beat out the biggest movie of all time and the biggest Marvel movie of all time, it really says something about my listeners and your viewers, how I think personally considerate they are of a lot of these categories. So I'm just all around very impressed.
Yeah, that's when we were doing this, I put everything in the basket of they're going to make the right decision. And while I won't agree with every decision today, these are decisions that I can't necessarily argue with completely, and this is the prime example of that. And I love the fact that everyone in this category showed out. Same with Best Score. I mean, not one nominee got below 140, 150 votes. Even Little Women in last place got 164. So I love that, and it was such a close victory. These are the ones that get me most excited, and you can't argue with the ensemble and Knives Out, man. It was fantastic.
100%. So let's move into Best Actor Comeback. I think this is going to be the first category where we actually reveal where everybody placed, just because I find it so damn interesting. Because I never would have called that the person who won it would have won it. But anyway, without further ado, the nominees for Best Actor Comeback: Eddie Murphy, Joe Pesci, Jennifer Lopez, Shia LaBeouf, and Adam Sandler. And our winner is Adam Sandler with 44% of the vote. I am absolutely blown away. Not because Adam Sandler didn't do a great job. I just thought Shia LaBeouf had the greater comeback, just purely based off the fact that he has like a wild background. He's uneven. We don't know what he's going to do. And he showed out for 2 incredible dramas this year, whereas everyone else only had 1 movie. So let's dive into this. I want to know if you personally would have chosen Adam Sandler over any of the other nominees, but also, are you surprised by where anybody placed based on, personally just where you wanted people to show up for?
I actually would have chosen Adam Sandler, and here's why. You go down, and the way our list was laid out is, that you are going to choose, I don't want to say this for everyone, but to me, there are 2 clear contenders for Best Actor in general, right? So I think a lot of people knew they were going to choose one of those 2.
Okay.
Then you have this category, and it's like, well, I didn't put Adam Sandler in there. I'm going to put Adam Sandler in here, but even going into what this is, it's Best Actor Comeback, man. The guy hasn't done it. And we know he can do it, but he hasn't done it since Punch Drunk Love. Now, I believe he did it in Merowitz Stories, but nobody saw that movie. This is the film that everyone got to see, and I think it released in other countries on Netflix yesterday. So now everyone is getting to see this performance, and it's just nonstop critical and for the most part, audience appraisal. Even if you don't love the movie, it's Adam Sandler. Now, Shia LaBeouf got really close for me, and I'm happy to see that he's in second place here with 363 votes. That's great because of where his actual career went. Not just his acting projects, his career. So I guess he did have the bigger comeback, but in terms of acting prowess, I probably would have went with Sandler.
So Joe Pesci came in 3rd, and Eddie Murphy is 4th.
Yeah, it
so
shocked me.
Personally, I would have put Eddie above Joe Pesci just because I'm so indifferent about The Irishman, and not that his performance wasn't great, but honestly, I don't know if I would have put him in here. He probably would have been my 5th choice personally. I'm not shocked that J-Lo is actually dead last in our poll. I'm not shocked by it. I think she absolutely deserved to be here though, but not shocked that she got the least amount of votes. But
this
like,
is one of those.
I'm sorry. So
No, you're fine.
Joe Pesci and Eddie Murphy just both have their like pockets of fans that I don't think Shia LaBeouf definitely doesn't have that, in my opinion. But also just Adam Sandler. So many people have just been out, but then again, I guess that's why you do it, because so many people have been down and out on him for so long. But again, I just I expected fans to rally behind Pesci and Murphy a little bit more than they did.
Yeah, I'm so happy that you talked me into a couple of these. This is one where you gave us Lopez, you gave us LaBeouf, and you gave us Pesci, I believe. And your choices here, really, I'm looking at this category, and I think all 5 deserve to be here. I think any of them could have won it. Adam Sandler, to me, it's like this was kind of the year of Adam Sandler, even though he didn't get an Oscar nomination. But yeah, man, I'm happy with this category. But it was shocking to see Pesci get over Murphy. But let's go ahead and move on to director comeback, because this one is just as interesting, if not more so. So our nominees are Kevin Smith, Sam Mendes, Todd Phillips, Robert Rodriguez, and Ryan Johnson. And our winner, with 38% of the votes, is Ryan Johnson. Ryan Johnson fans are showing out today, man. We had Knives Out winning ensemble. Now Ryan Johnson for director comeback. Now Ryan, why don't you explain real quick, just in case you guys didn't get to listen to the podcast, why we put him on this list? I think a lot of people understand, but just one more time.
Yeah, so I guess this category, we took a lot of liberties. We had different criteria depending on why the nominee got placed there. So everybody, you can call it a comeback for all 5 of these directors for varying reasons. One of them centers around a health issue, a literal heart attack. The other is just, hey, we didn't expect much out of you, and you showed us this, and it might not have been the best movie, but at least you gave us something good. Like, there was just different criteria, and I put Ryan Johnson in this category. I was the one that pitched it to you because I thought that he had the most like down and out story when it came to the fact that he has this fan base that turned against him on his last film with Star Wars The Last Jedi. And he ended up making a movie. The Knives Out, I think, is one of the best, biggest middle finger. I don't know if you cuss on your YouTube channel, but middle finger FU statements, period. The fact that Knives Out is like super profitable, doing super well. It spawned sequels, apparently, we're led to believe at the point that we're recording this. So it's just such a great middle finger kind of movie, Knives Out. So he had a different kind of comeback than everybody else, but you just gotta remember that he has so much drama around his name. And that's what's so interesting, because actually some people might call it a comeback if they hate The Last Jedi. I mean, I don't know about your viewers, but if you hate The Last Jedi and you love Knives Out, that's a great comeback. And I think it's a great comeback even though I love The Last Jedi, because I love Ryan Johnson's attitude online. I think he's super mature, super gracious, super nice and considerate. And I don't know. So I have a different reason for voting for him. So it's weird that I found this commonality with Ryan Johnson haters, and we've come together on this category. I'm a big fan of his, so I just found this win to be maybe the most meaningful win, personally.
I think that's the brilliant, not to call us brilliant, but I love the fact that we're doing this category, because there are so many different ways you can interpret a comeback. You look at everyone else and Rodriguez and Kevin Smith, they didn't get a lot of votes. But you can look at Todd Phillips, Sam Mendes, and Ryan Johnson, man. This was close. 428 for Sam Mendes, 490 for Todd Phillips, 617 for Ryan Johnson, man. That is really close. So I love the way that you can interpret that. Todd Phillips coming from the Hangover series. Kevin Smith, he's been gone for a long time. Neither of us has liked a lot of his films recently. And then Ryan Johnson, not necessarily coming back from a bad movie, but a lot of people call it a bad Star Wars movie. So to see him come in and win this, I was really happy with. And I love all of the reasons that you brought up as well, man. What a cool category.
Yeah, absolutely. Great job, guys.
Good job, guys.
All right. So let's get to another fun category. 2019's MVP for movies. I was very excited to contribute to this. Now, you got one in there that I didn't consider, but I think for the most part we agreed on 4 of the 5. Yes. Actually, one of them was a last-minute switch, so we'll talk about it. So the nominees for 2019's MVP for movies are Adam Driver, who was in 4 movies, Scarlett Johansson, who was in 3 movies, Florence Pugh, who was in 3 movies, and it's my favorite thing about 2019. That was a little Jerry Seinfeld there. Chris Evans and Keanu Reeves, guys. So, you're a winner. With 29% of the vote. Super close race with the top 3. Congratulations to Scarlett Johansson for being the MVP of 2019. So, like I said, it was a close race. Top 3. Scarlett got 465 votes. Adam Driver got 427 votes. And Florence Pugh got 417 votes. So, here's what I want to say to you. I am not at all shocked that it was that close between those 3 people. I'm shocked because of those 3 people, I think Scarlett could have come in dead last.
Yeah.
So,
there's...
Go ahead.
I'm looking at... I'm looking at Keanu Reeves in 4th place here. And the fact that we have 3 people above him, who was in the most movies this year. Everyone else got over 400 votes, those top 3. Reeves and Evans at the bottom. But you look at that. Right? And here's why I think people did such a wonderful job with these votes. Because Keanu Reeves and Chris Evans, many would argue, are the bigger names and faces. But to vote based off of 2019... I think they did it right. And that's actually this order, ScarJo, Adam Driver, Florence Pugh, that's the order I would have chosen. Because of Scarlett Johansson's 2 Oscar nominations, because of Adam Driver's incredible performances, because of Florence Pugh just breaking my heart and stealing it away in 2019, man. This is one where I just think everyone who voted killed it, and this may be one of my favorite categories.
So... the last-minute switch on the podcast, and this is actually not the one I was referencing at the top of this video. It's another one coming up later. But one of the last-minute switches was Robert Downey Jr. was in this category. And I pitched it to you, what if we switch it out with Evans? Because Evans not only is in the movie that the best director comeback made, but it's also in the movie that has the best ensemble, according to our listeners, that beat out his other movie, Avengers Endgame. So I pitched that to you. We decided on putting Chris Evans here. Do you think if Robert Downey Jr. was in place of Chris Evans, that he would still be dead last?
I don't know about dead last, but I do think he would be in that bottom 2, just because he had... granted, it's the biggest movie of all time, and he's one of the biggest characters of all time.
Yes.
But I think people voted based off of total dominance in 2019. And the fact that Chris Evans, Captain America, and dude, his sweater was all over social media from Knives Out. The fact that he got last, it shocks me, but not in a bad way. Just, but yeah, man, RDJ maybe 4th, but I don't think he would have gotten top 3, to be honest with you.
I agree 100%. So it's really not that big of a deal. So yeah, could RDJ have gotten more votes than Chris Evans? Maybe. Yes. But again, I don't think it changes who would have eventually won. So congratulations to Scarlett Johansson. Also, Marriage Story got great recognition in this category with both of its leads, number 1 and number 2. So maybe that comes back up later, maybe not, but it's here. So congratulations.
Yeah, we'll see. Now, this category, I really enjoy the fact that we put it in as well. It's kind of like your minor league MVPs. This is Rookie of the Year. So our nominees are Zach Gottsagen, Julia Fox, Kylie Curran, Julia Butters, Roman Griffin Davis, and your winner from Jojo Rabbit is Roman Griffin Davis with a dominant performance, 59% of the votes, 943 votes. No shocker here. What actually shocked me was the fact that Julia Fox got 251 over Zach Gottsagen, which I thought a lot of people would be pulling for, just because Peanut Butter Falcon is one of those movies, man. I said before, light your heart on fire. I think Peanut Butter Falcon does that. I think his performance does that, but there is no doubt Roman Griffin Davis deserves this because he was phenomenal in that film.
When I walked out of Jojo Rabbit, I was so damn impressed with him. I think he might be my favorite child actor role ever. I thought he was incredible. Did you just me?
No, it's a yeah. It's like a yeah.
Oh,
it's like
yeah, okay. I thought
happy
you went,
yeah.
I was so damn impressed with that young gentleman that I'm super glad he won. He would have been my pick. Actually, I would have put Gotsigan last, but that's purely just because I figured that Peanut Butter Falcon was the least viewed movie. That's really all. There's no other commentary on his ability and anybody else's ability. I'm actually shocked that he got, 15, 16 less votes than Julia Fox when Julia Fox was so I'm actually really impressed. So shout out to everybody who put in Zach Gotsigan. He came in third place. I thought Kylie Curran was a nice, you just did not consider her at all. So I'm surprised that she beat out Julia Butters because everybody just seems to care more about Julia Butters in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But so anyway, all around, that was a fun, aside from the fact that my winner and the person I think who should have won, it was interesting everywhere else. I think Julia Fox sort of had a Margot Robbie moment. I mean, that's what I thought of after leaving Uncut Gems, is that I hadn't been so taken by a supporting role like that since Margot in Wolf of Wall Street. So I'm glad she got second place.
And I think out of all of these, the most first performances all around, obviously, but Julia Fox, it almost feels like she's established. That's how good she was in that movie, man. I can't wait to see where she goes because it's a Margot Robbie feel. It really is.
Yeah, totally. All right, let's get to most overrated movie of 2019. There's a lot to say about this, but let me go on and reveal the nominees. Up first is Judy, The Lighthouse, The Two Popes, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and Brittany Runs a Marathon. And your winner, I cannot believe I'm saying this.
I can't either.
Is Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I'm validated. Holy shit. So, let me just say, these results blew me away because, guys, I genuinely think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is the most overrated movie of 2019. Also think it's the most overrated movie of Quentin Tarantino's filmography. Ooh. I don't hate the movie. I don't despise the movie. I'm just not that big of a fan of it. And I put this in there because I genuinely think it's overrated.
Yeah.
I'm shocked by our listeners and viewers for thinking the same. Because, again, going back to the point I made about these generalizations, these film Twitter narratives that you can sort of pick out in your head, I had decided that everyone on Earth just liked this movie, and I was just going to have to settle with the fact that I didn't get it, or I'm just in the minority here. Well, I'm validated, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm validated by this result. So thank you to our listeners and our viewers. I feel much better about myself. Now, I have another point I want to make about this category that you can actually see in our notes, but I want to know how you respond to everything I've said so far.
Yes, I actually agree with you. And out of your two major choices for this category, you pulled for The Lighthouse, and I'm so glad it didn't get a ton of votes, and you pulled for Once Upon a Time. I actually agreed more with Once Upon a Time. I still don't think it's overrated in a general sense, but in terms of it, winning Best Picture and a couple of these nominations here and there, I think it's a bit overrated. I won't be upset if this movie wins Best Picture, but I am pulling for, I think, 8 of the other 9 to win. Is that bad? Or 7 of the other 9 to win over it.
No,
so in that sense, I would say it's overrated. I pulled for The Two Popes. It almost got there, 460 votes. Very close race with that top 2.
So I referenced this at the top of the video.
Okay.
I said there was one category that I was most disappointed in with ourselves, not with the votes. I think this category, people pointed it out, and upon further review, I agree. I think we just had terrible judgment with the nominees.
Yeah.
I think that if we actually consider what it means to be overrated, I don't think really any of the movies fit that criteria except Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because I think there's this idea that all of the nominees, so again, to remind people, The Two Popes, Judy, The Lighthouse, Brittany Runs a Marathon, all of those movies probably need to be way bigger to be considered overrated. And so we had people pointing out, I've never heard people talk about Brittany Runs a Marathon. Personally, Ryan Snelling has not even seen that movie. I haven't seen Judy either, but people were just kind of like, how are any of these movies overrated when people don't really talk about them anyway? Mm-hmm. So I agree with that criticism. I think I'm thankful because I'm glad that the person who I think deserved to win won, but that kind of also further illustrates the point that it was the biggest movie out of all of them, so maybe it was always going to win that anyway, because nobody else thought that the other four were overrated.
Maybe, but the fact that the top three are so close kind of points me in the opposite direction. With those top three. Now, I think the last two on this list, I think we could have left off Brittany Runs a Marathon, because you're right, nobody saw that film. I think we could have left off The Lighthouse, because I think most people like The Lighthouse. But the top three, man, I really do. The fact that it's 361 to 460 to 523, that tells me that
it's close.
And the two Popes, I would honestly argue, deserves to be on there, like really does deserve it because of all of the Oscar nominations. Right? It got a lot. It got 3, I believe. And maybe overrated more in a critical sense or an award sense, but as with some of these other categories, you can redefine some of these terms. And I understand, I understand a lot of people haven't seen a lot of these movies, and that's completely, but for me, there weren't a lot of major box office movies this year that were overrated because I either didn't like them and other people didn't like them, or I liked them and most people liked them. You know what I mean? So it was really difficult to come up with the nominees in that category.
That's fair.
But now we move on to one that I'm not as happy with the results in the sense of how big of a gap there was, but I'm really happy with the nominees in general because I think all 5 of these movies in most underrated movies of 2019 are really great. Like they were all in my top movies of the year. So we have Dragged Across Concrete, Dr. Sleep, The Art of Self-Defense, Under the Silver Lake, and Shadow. Shadow receiving more votes, by the way, but our winner is Dr. Sleep at 49% of the vote with 791 votes. Yes, Shadow was last, but it didn't get 30 this time. It got 127. Now, saying that earlier, I think my thing with this category is I just thought some of these other films would get closer because our second place, The Art of Self-Defense, has 297. That's a big gap. And saying more people saw Dr. Sleep, okay, maybe, but that movie bombed at the box office. So I guess people saw it recently on DVD. What are your thoughts on this, Ryan?
Well, I think Dr. Sleep, out of all the movies, was still the most viewed, whether it was a box office bomb or not, because none of the other ones were in wide release, were they?
Maybe. So Shadow's on Netflix, so you would think.
Shadow is not on Netflix.
It is. Yes, it is.
Is it now?
It may be now, but last time I checked, it was on Netflix.
I was going to say, I'm not sure that's the case, but I would be interested to look that up.
It is now for sure, but it may not have been that, for the last couple of months.
Okay. Well, it's not so much Shadow that I'm looking at, but it's the fact that I do think you got a win in here. You got a loss, but you got a win because you did suggest The Art of Self-Defense, and that did come in number 2. I think your loss was with Dragged Across Concrete, where we had extensive conversations about that movie just because.
But I knew nobody's seen that movie. I had to get it in there because it's amazing.
By the way, you're 100% right. Shadow is on Netflix. I had no idea. So please check out Shadow because it's awesome. It was nominated for several categories in this award show, and not enough people have seen it. So anyway.
I agree.
Dragged Across Concrete was your L just because you just fought so hard for it, and I was just so indifferent because.
But it's not an L, though, because I said nobody's seen the movie. I just got to get it in here. Well, I acknowledge, but nobody's seen the movie.
Well, fine. I'll get, but it's still the W because you actually did suggest most of this category, so maybe it's just a W overall. But the movie that I thought would win won, and I'm happy about it. So, guys, go check out Dr. Sleep because I think it's out on VOD. Anyway,
it's great. It really is great.
Yeah. Most surprising movie. Guys, your nominees for most surprising movie of 2019: Fighting with My Family, Hustlers, Klaus, Ready or Not, and Crawl. And your winner. The tight race, 32% of the vote was Klaus or Klaus. Crazy. This right here, I could tell, like, hey, this is why we have Austin Burke's fan base as a part of this, because I never would have pulled this out of my rear end. But your fans showed up. All the Klaus stands out there, got the win for this movie. Can't believe it, because just based on the discussion focused on movies this year, I thought all of the other movies were more discussed than Klaus. But no, I am dead wrong. I'm happy to be proven wrong from time to time. So good for you guys who voted for it, and good for this movie, and good for you, Austin, because you're a massive fan of this film.
No, man, I take back what I said. I'll take the L on Dragged Across Concrete as long as I get this W. Because, dude, this movie, I would fight tooth and nail for this movie every day, man. It was so shocking. Shocking, because it's an animated movie on Netflix. Who would have thought? And who would have thought? Now, I know it was, 32% of the vote, but second place was Ready or Not with 385. That's still a bigger gap than I anticipated. And I honestly didn't think this would win. I thought it would be a Ready or Not or Fighting with My Family. And I love this category, by the way, just to shout out, well, I guess to us for coming up, man. But I think these are all some of the most surprising movies in the last couple of years.
Totally.
But Klaus coming on top, man, I can't believe people voted it. Oh, it makes me so happy, because it's just a wonderful, wonderful movie.
Shout out to Swim for coming in dead last.
It's Crawl, dude. No, I do think Crawl's a good movie. The gap, though, 137 to 521. Klaus over Crawl. I can't believe it, man. Maybe more people have watched it in preparation for the Oscars, but now we move on to most disappointing. And the nominees are Glass,
too early.
Godzilla, King of the Monsters, Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, The Lion King, It Chapter 2. And your winner is Star Wars, The Rise of Skywalker, with a very similar to most surprising 32% of the vote, man. This category went right along with the previous.
I'm reacting this way just because I don't want to have any kind of conversation about Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker, but since we're here, obviously we felt that it needed to be nominated. I felt that it needed to win. It was between that and The Lion King for me, and I would have been happy either way. I think I'm kind of shocked just because all of the other movies I can feel. I have a sense those negative feelings towards all the other ones, whereas like Rise of Skywalker does have its fan base, has people that really enjoyed it for varying reasons. So regardless of all that, I'm curious if those people still ended up voting for it as most disappointed, because there is, there is a possibility that you still like the movie, but still found it to be most disappointed because it didn't do things that you thought it needed to. Regardless of all that, me personally, I was rooting for this to win, and it won. And but I'm shocked by it. I'm shocked.
I'm shocked too. I'm shocked with the last two. I mean, coming in fourth and fifth were Glass and Godzilla. And Godzilla was a movie that I really wanted on this list, so I couldn't believe that got. But I think most of the
Glass
votes
was one I wanted.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think most of the votes just went to possibly the biggest of all of them. Now, I know Lion King made a lot of money, but no one really talked about it after they saw it. Star Wars is the biggest franchise, and everyone was looking forward to this, and it was the end to the entire saga. So I understand why a lot of the votes went to that one, man. And no big surprise here for me, but oh my goodness, the fact that it got over 500 votes is kind of crazy, if we're being honest.
Yeah. Pretty nuts. Best hero, ladies and gentlemen. Best hero of 2019. Your nominees are John Wick, Captain America, or Steve Rogers. Is it Lieutenant Schofield?
In
1917?
I believe Lieutenant Schofield.
Tony Stark / Iron Man. And Black Widow. Natasha Romanoff. And your winner, with 58% of the vote, is Iron Man, Tony Stark. Well done. Well done.
Yes, sir.
I think that's a legacy play, for sure. But obviously, he was in the biggest movie of all time this past year in 2019. So one of the most memorable movie moments ever he was involved in. And I think this is just so obviously the winner. And so did everybody else with 58% of the vote. Huge drop-off between number one. Number two, I'm actually shocked, is Lieutenant Schofield. I'm shocked he came above Cap and Black Widow.
Yeah, that's the one for me is I thought for sure that would be last place. Just because we see best hero, we think superhero, and John Wick's basically a superhero. So I assumed he would be in the final spot, but coming in second is nothing to sneeze at. But we all know, I mean, I Am Iron Man, the legacy, the build-up, all the way back to 2008 when this movie first came out. No doubt he was going to win this category. But the next category in Best Villain, this is one that, we'll get into it. So the nominees are Rose the Hat, Mysterio, Ransom from Knives Out, Thanos, and Joker. And the winner, to everyone's surprise, just kidding, it's Joker. We all knew Joker was going to win that. Come on. Come on now. The year of Joker. Ryan, how do you feel about this winner?
Good. I'm actually surprised just because I thought Thanos was the sure win there.
Interesting. Wow.
Well, my inner monologue, I was kind of just going back and forth on how I felt about calling him the villain when he's obviously
That's a good point.
The villain. He's the protagonist. So I wondered if people would fight with that. Like, hey, I know he's the villain. I know he's obviously doing terrible things, but he's the protagonist. So is the villain in that movie capitalism? Is the villain in that movie mental illness? Maybe some people didn't picture him as the villain. But then again, the Joker is just one of the most iconic villains in movie history, comic book history. So maybe it was a surefire win. I don't know. But I thought Thanos was gonna beat out Joker. I'm not gonna act like Joker deserved to be dead last or anything. But good for Joker. It's the second win for this film. First being best score, right?
Yes, it is the second win. It's a movie that a lot of people thought was going to sweep every single category. But in terms of the character, you know that Joker is a lot of people's favorite villain. So, and I think that's the case with Thanos. My argument towards Thanos not winning this, and it's a tough one because Thanos was incredible in Endgame, is I think he was way more of a villain in Infinity War, whereas Endgame it was focusing more on the heroes, and I'm glad people distinguished that. But you got a great point being made with the fact that he is Joker is kind of the protagonist of that movie. So it's an interesting thing to balance, but I'm glad Joker ended up pulling out the victory. Now for this next category, the next two categories, we wanted to split up favorite scene, favorite moment into two different categories because we kept coming up with Avengers Endgame moments. So we were like, let's just give it, I'm dying. Let's just give it its own category and see which Endgame moment is everyone's favorites.
Congratulations to Portals. I'm kind of shocked that it won over I Am Iron Man. Not gonna lie, pretty crazy.
Yeah, man. There's a lot to vote for in this category. The real shock for me was the distinction between, and we're seeing this for most of these categories, is first, second, third, and then fourth and fifth. Just the votes drop off, it feels like. So, and obviously with Endgame, there are plenty of other moments that we missed out on. I had a couple of comments. I'm like, oh, crap, I kind of agree with you guys. And you brought up some that maybe should have been fourth and fifth. But these top three, no-brainers. And with 45% of the votes, though, man, Portals. And I agree, though. That is one scene that I go back to and visit pretty often. So, it's fantastic. It deserves to win.
So, let's stay in this tradition and talk about just favorite movie scenes, movie moments, excluding Avengers Endgame. Mm-hmm. Everybody else in cinema. So our nominees are the trench run in 1917, the talk show climax of Joker, the family switch in Parasite, the opening of Midsommar, and the Adam and ScarJo fight in Marriage Story. And your winner. Adam and ScarJo fighting in Marriage Story with 29% of the vote. It was a close race between our top 4 nominees.
Yeah.
The bottom one you snuck in there,
Dude,
and I hate it for you.
I'll take it.
I was going to say, I hate it for you, but I agree it's a fantastic sequence. The opening of Midsommar came in dead last with 77 votes. But I'm just kind of shocked at how well represented Marriage Story is. I really am. They've won several already. I'm also shocked against still ScarJo winning MVP of the year. It just, I don't know, man. It's just goes to show how wonderful Noah Baumbach and company did with that movie, but also just everybody just seems to enjoy that movie.
Yeah, man, this scene winning really did surprise me because it's one of my personal favorite scenes of the year. But to say that's what everyone voted for, that was the majority of the votes, that's awesome. Like, this makes me happy with our voters because we could have put in, the more showy scenes that I think are fantastic, like the trench run and the talk show on Joker, but we got a scene of just an acting showcase. And that's beautiful, man.
Yeah, this scene was chosen, and it was entirely dialogue, and it just entirely like dramatic acting. There were no visual, like, look at me types of elements to that. I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to discount the editing and the pacing of that sequence because it's obviously part of what makes it work so well.
Yes.
But it wasn't an action scene like in the trench run, and it wasn't like this giant reveal as it was in Parasite. So it's pretty interesting that this won, and I think it's an insanely well done scene. And glad it won for sure. But I'm proud of the viewers and the listenership for picking it as well.
Me too. This entire award show, man, I'm just super pumped with the way people are voting. And it feels to me like they took this seriously, which is exactly what we wanted because every now and then you get some people in there. And I'm sure that was the case. But my goodness, you guys just rocked it, man. But here we go. Here's a fun category. It is Worst Movie of 2019. And the nominees are Playmobil, the movie, Hellboy, Cats, The Haunting of Sharon Tate, and The Fanatic. Our winner is with 56% of the votes. I can't believe Cats won something. Can you? What are we doing? Like,
yeah. I think that's what one of our comments said. Like, I feel so bad voting for Cats, even if it is in its most deserving category, worst movie. I have not seen a single one of these nominees, but based on the narratives. Based on all these films, I get it. Cats won with 56% of the vote. So everybody hates that movie.
What shocked me was number 2, which took in another large chunk of the votes, and that's The Haunting of Sharon Tate with 334. I can't believe 334 people seen that movie. Like, oh man, it's like spreading the plague, man. I'm so sorry to all of you who had to experience that. Because that's my least favorite movie, but no doubt Cats was going to win this, man, because that movie was meowful. Sorry. No. Let's move on. Let's move on.
All right. Best sci-fi fantasy film of 2019. Your nominees are Jumanji Next Level, Yesterday, Ad Astra, Alita Battle Angel, and I Am Mother. You're a winner. Is that Astra, ladies and gentlemen? I think this was probably the category I was least confident in, only because you and I kind of had this weird back and forth. Like, do these even count as sci-fi fantasy? Like, we had that conversation about, I think, all of them except Ad Astra.
Yes.
Well, I am Mother, but you did not consider I Am Mother, so I'm glad I got it in there, even though it is dead last. So this was my dragged across concrete, I guess. So if I can take an L, because I think I Am Mother still deserves to be like in the top 2.
I do too,
personally.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
But I think Ad Astra won just because it was it was obviously the most highly regarded film here, but also just because it was the most seen. I think more people, well, maybe not. Maybe more people saw Jumanji. Yeah, more people saw Jumanji. What am I saying?
Well, that and Alita, man, I couldn't believe. And Alita came in second with 321, which is a nice showing. But there were some loud Alita fans from last year, so I expected the vote to be a tad bit higher. But there's no knock against any of those movies, man. I think they all deserve to be on there. And I Am Mother, 62 votes. Not great, but if you guys stumble across that on Netflix one day, please check it out because I do think it deserves to be on there. Next up is Best Horror. So our nominees are Dr. Sleep, Midsommar, The Lighthouse, Us, and Ready or Not. And your winner, with 36% of the vote, very close, but The Lighthouse is what you all chose to be the best horror movie of 2019. With Us and Midsommar, man, nipping at its heels. This was close.
Yeah, it was. I'm happy for you, and I'm happy for the Lighthouse fans. Yeah. The Lighthouse is now where Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was for me. It's the movie that I just chalked up to, hey, I'm just in the minority here. I don't get this movie, but everybody else seems to be having a great time with it. So The Lighthouse has been validated, without spoilers, has been validated by this ceremony here. Yeah. So I will just admit defeat and say, look, I'm glad that you guys have this movie that you love so much. I personally I don't think it's scary for the audience. I think it's more of a horror for the characters involved. But it wasn't as scary for me as Dr. Sleep and Midsommar. But if anything, I can take away the fact that it was a pretty close race with our top three, decently close race with our top three. Midsommar's our third best horror movie of the year, and I'll accept it. I couldn't
believe Us got 412 votes in second place. I thought for sure Midsommar would top it just from the talk of the town, and that was the last second. I mean, it was a movie that I put up, but it was a movie at the last second. You're like, you know what? Let's put Us on there because I feel like, and you're right, because I can't believe it got number 2, man. I thought maybe 4 or 5. Right. So it's nice to see those top 3 showing out for sure.
100%. So let's keep going with the best in genre. This time it's action movie. So up first, John Wick Chapter 3, Alita Battle Angel, Terminator Dark Fate, Ford v Ferrari, and Shadow. Our winner is, of course, John Wick Chapter 3. Maybe the most obvious winner for me personally. There's another category 2 up that I think was also pretty obvious. But John Wick Chapter 3, congratulations. I walked out of that movie just thinking that it was one of the best action movies I'd seen ever, let alone in 2019. I think what's more notable is the fact that Ford v Ferrari
my goodness,
came in second place with 554 votes. If you guys listen to the podcast on the Movie House podcast feed, we kind of went back and forth. Should we consider Ford v Ferrari as an action movie? And we just decided, obviously, that it should be. And we were validated by your votes. You guys think it's the second best action movie of the year. So yeah, kudos to that. I fought for Terminator Dark Fate. It came in dead last. I watched the movie again not 2 days ago. I still think it's a fantastic action movie. I really do. Not nearly as good as John Wick Chapter 3 in terms of action, but I'm disappointed that it came in dead last with 27 votes. It's one of the lowest vote counts of the entire ceremony.
Not good. But it's these top 2 movies, man. It's Ford v Ferrari, John Wick, and here's what I'll say. I think Ford v Ferrari is a better movie. I think John Wick is a better action movie. And I love that people took that into account. They didn't just vote for what they believe was the best film. They said, what is the best action-centric movie? And John Wick was the winner there. But both of those films, I mean, accounting for the majority, because those last 3 didn't even crack 200 combined. So that is pretty impressive for those top 2 films. Moving on to Best Comedy, we have Dolomite Is My Name, Knives Out, Jojo Rabbit, Booksmart, Fighting with My Family. God, I love these nominees. But your winner,
me too,
with 39% of the vote, bring it back, Ryan Johnson. Fans, let's go. Knives Out. Oh, my goodness. What is happening, Ryan?
Crazy.
What is going on?
I don't know, man. So how many does Knives Out have now? Is that 2 so far? Best Director Comeback? 3? Oh, Best Ensemble, Best Director Comeback. Yeah. And now this. Good for that movie.
And a close race between 1 and 2, too. I honestly thought Jojo Rabbit was a shoo-in for this because I didn't know the love for Knives Out was there, man. This is shocking me over and over. But those top 3 movies, Knives Out, Jojo, Booksmart, they had a good showing in that category.
Yeah, that would have been my top 3. I would go back and forth on which one I think would be in first place, but I get it. They're also, I think, the most 3-dimensional movies. Like, well, I think Booksmart is more of a straightforward comedy, and so is Dolomite Is My Name, and Knives Out and Jojo Rabbit are a little bit more 3-dimensional. So it's interesting that they are still in the top 2. And we kind of had that debate too. Off air, or not off air, but on the podcast, where we kind of talked about what it actually means to be a comedy. Some are just more straightforward, some are stoner comedies, some are farce, or some also have super dramatic elements. But comedy is subjective, and you can consider a lot of things comedy. And it just so happens that 39% of our viewers and listeners think Knives Out is the best comedy.
Shocking, man.
For sure. There's a lot to say about this next category. There's a lot to say. It's very interesting. But guys, we are now going to determine the best comic book movie of 2019. Our nominees are Shazam, Spider-Man Far From Home, Avengers Endgame, Captain Marvel, and Joker. Ladies and gentlemen, your winner is Avengers Endgame. Now, this might seem to be the most obvious choice. I think, though, this was the tightest race of the entire ceremony.
Yes.
Avengers Endgame with 764 votes. Number 2 with 717 votes was Joker. Now, I am not at all shocked that Joker is number 2, but I'm shocked that this was the one that came down to the wire. I told you, I had already documented, for the most part, what I thought the winners were, I think Thursday night, when there were still 24 hours left. But this is the one that I had to keep updating, because I did not know if Joker would eventually take the lead. I'm shocked by this. Where are you at?
I can't believe that. And it's not only that. It's the fact that Avengers and Joker took up, 95 maybe % of the vote? I mean, these last 3 movies barely showed out. And then we have Captain Marvel with the least number of votes in any category, 8 votes.
Period.
8 votes.
That's the lowest vote count of this entire award ceremony, ladies and gentlemen. 8 votes for Captain Marvel.
So here's my question, Ryan. If I would have gotten Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and Batman on there, would it have gotten 9? That's my question.
Well, it kind of goes back, and I don't remember what the category was, but it was like, yeah, you can make that argument now.
There's no way you could have.
But it wouldn't have changed the winner, and I think that's more important, because then, like, if we hit stop on that podcast and someone was like, "Oh my God, I cannot believe you voted for this instead of this," and we actually, I mean, people did that anyway in your comment section, but there weren't any that like made me feel like I regretted the podcast. I don't know if that would have been one of those.
Yeah.
I think, though, again, I'm not at all shocked, because this, for the most part, is identical to my personal list.
Yeah.
The other thing that I find very shocking is that the listeners and viewers think Shazam is better than Far From Home, which I just think is interesting.
Yeah, that's...
It's not that I disagree. It's just a matter of like the narratives and the amount of people who saw one movie versus the other. I just thought that was an interesting result.
Yeah, you're right, man. Well, you had to put Captain Marvel on there because it made $1 billion. A lot of people saw that movie. And here's what I'll say about this, just to wrap it up. Comic book movie. I know a lot of people will argue that Joker is the better film, and I love that people did this. I think people voted on what the better comic book movie was, and that's Avengers. There's no denying that. Now, maybe Joker is the better quote-unquote film, but the category is best comic book movie, and I think they did the right. What's your say on that, Ryan? What the category actually calls for?
I didn't make that distinction. I just think they're obviously the most notable. They represent the year the best in terms of just greatness, and they're some of the best comic book movies ever made. I don't even think the Joker is better than Avengers Endgame, personally, even though I'm also not a Joker hater and I don't subscribe to the controversies. And and the what word do I want? I don't subscribe to the controversies or the dismissive tone that's around that movie. So again, I get second place, but I don't think it's the better film. But I understand. I understand for the most part everything that we see here.
I really do. All right, so we move on to Best Drama. And this one was interesting as well. So our nominees are Parasite, Honey Boy, Marriage Story, The Farewell, 1917. And your winner, with 37% of the votes, it's close, but Parasite is your winner for Best Drama.
Yes.
And this top three here. And actually, I found this interesting. You have Parasite, then Marriage Story, then 1917. They all came very close to each other. So a very close race here.
Is that the first win for Parasite today?
I believe so. I think it is. I think it's win number one.
I think it is too, yeah. It's win number one for Parasite, so shout out to that movie. It was my favorite movie of the year personally. Yeah. I'm disappointed that Honey Boy got so few votes, but it's also the least accessible movie, period. So I understand that. So, but I think this makes the most sense. I'm super happy for Parasite and just the way that it all turned out. So it's Marriage Story second, 1917's third, Farewell's fourth. I get it. I think that's actually maybe it's one of the most obvious categories for me personally. Man. Let's get to a category that I am not qualified to discuss because, guys, if you listen to the Nominations podcast on the Movie House feed, you know that I didn't see a single animated movie in 2019. So I completely left this up to you. The only thing I brought to the table were the top 5 highest rated on Rotten Tomatoes. And even that got shifted around because you had your varying opinions and had other movies that I just didn't even consider. And I'm very glad for that. So this is thanks to you that these nominees got in there. So guys, the best animated movies of 2019, your nominees are How to Train Your Dragon 3, Frozen 2, Toy Story 4, lots of sequels, Klaus, not sure how to say it still to this day, even though Austin says Klaus, I don't know why. And I Lost My Body, which thankfully Austin threw in there, and he was right because more people showed out and ended up voting for this. But your winner is Toy Story 4 with 51% of the vote. Even though I didn't see any animated movie, I could have called this. How do you read it?
It's exactly what I expected in terms of the winner, but I thought for sure more people would vote for How to Train Your Dragon and Frozen 2, but those actually got 4th and 5th. 2 was Klaus, and 3 was I Lost My Body. 2 movies that I am just such a big fan of, and it's so nice to see people are getting on Netflix and watching these films, man. But we all know, I mean, Toy Story 4, huge film, a lot of people loved it, but Klaus at number 2 with 326, that's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
All right. So we're staying in the same territory with Best Voice Acting. And our nominees are Bradley Cooper as Rocket Raccoon, Jay Baruchel as our boy Hiccup from How to Train Your Dragon, Annie Potts as Bo Peep in Toy Story 4, and J.K. Simmons as Klaus. Did I say Tom Hanks? I can't remember if I said it. Tom Hanks is Woody.
You said it now.
I said it now. Tom Hanks is Woody from Toy Story 4. And our winner is Tom Hanks as Woody.
That's right.
From Toy Story 4. I mean, it's the character that everyone knows and loves, but I will admit this was Woody's story. Toy Story 4 was a film that focused on this character, so if there was ever a time for him to win it, it would be now. But man, that really is a fantastic category, and I want to do that every year because I think voice acting, often there's a distinction between what people consider, voice actors aren't really actors, and I think, you look at Scarlett Johansson and her, I think performances like those deserve to be recognized alongside actual acting performances, but for them to get their own category, I think is really cool. So Tom Hanks is Woody, man. That's your winner in that category.
I agree. And also shout out to Bradley Cooper. That was one of my nominees.
Great call.
Because he's one of my favorite actors, period. Yes. Let alone one of my favorite characters in Guardians and Avengers Endgame, Rocket Raccoon. So shout out to him. Real quick, but congratulations to Tom Hanks for that. This category is awesome.
Yes.
This next category. Yes. I was excited when we came up with it. I just had a feeling that it was the toughest race, and The votes determined that we were right. This is easily the tightest race in this entire ceremony. Let's talk about Best Supporting Actress of 2019. Yeah. So first up, we got Florence Pugh from Little Women, Ana de Armas from Knives Out, Xu Zhao from The Farewell, Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit, and Jennifer Lopez in Hustlers. This race was super tight. Yeah. The winner only had 27% of the vote. 440 votes were given to Scarlett Johansson in Jojo Rabbit. So Scarlett gets yet another win here. It's easily the tightest race. So let's take a look at this real quick. So ScarJo had 440 votes. Ana de Armas had 426. Actually, that might be a tighter race than Endgame and Joker for Best Comic Book Movie, now that I'm realizing that. Florence Pugh had 382 votes. So what? That's not even like 40. That's not even a 40 drop-off, is it? Maybe it's a little bit more than 40. Xu Zhao got 233. That's still a tight race between Florence Pugh. And then J-Lo got 130. Now, J-Lo absolutely, in my opinion, needed to be nominated for this. So anybody else, I think it would have been a bigger drop-off. I do genuinely believe that, even though it's 100 vote difference between her and Xu Zhao. So tightest race. There's also some controversy, and I want to know if you're going back on putting Ana de Armas in Best Supporting category.
Yeah, there's a little bit of discussion in the comment section and discussion. I'm like, yeah, I can get behind that. I believe she's supporting in this movie. I don't think there's a clear lead in this film. Some may consider her to be the clear lead. Thankfully, we get to make up the rules for this award show. But the fact that she almost won tells me either A, people just really liked her performance, they're going to vote regardless, or B, I think she deserved to be in this, man, because 426 votes, that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah. I'm still undecided. Okay. So I'm glad that she almost won, but she is third billing on the movie behind Chris Evans and Daniel Craig. She is the lead actress in Knives Out. But in that movie, the ball gets passed around so much that it's just hard picturing her as best lead actress. So if you want to come to the table with that argument in the comment section or whatever, I get it. I really do. I understand. It's weird for me to put it that way, but I think that you do have the scientific data to call her the lead actress in a movie.
And it's almost the Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe thing as well. As Dafoe is first billing in The Lighthouse, I believe, and then Christian Bale is multiple awards ceremonies have been pushing him as the lead of that movie, and we put him in supporting both of those. So yeah, definitely arguments to be had there. But just the fact that Ana de Armas got votes, I was really happy about, because that means her performance did what I thought it did. And then Florence Pugh, but Scarlett Johansson, man. I mean, what a show for her so far. 2 awards, MVP, her performance in Jojo Rabbit. She is slowly becoming one of my favorite actresses. We've always known she could do it, but now she's showing that she can do it.
Absolutely. And she won here. My favorite ScarJo performance was in Jojo Rabbit. Yeah. So even though she's getting way more attention for Marriage Story, I'm glad that this happened here. So
I am too.
I ain't mad about it.
Yeah, I am too, man. And we move from actress to actor in Best Supporting Actor. So we have Timothy, as Ryan calls him, Chalamet, Christian Bale, Willem Dafoe, Shia LaBeouf, and Tom Hanks. This is tough. But your winner with 47% of the votes is Willem Dafoe. Let's go. I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say, Ryan. I'm so happy. I'm so happy right now.
I'm a loser.
Look, I fought hard for this.
This is why that podcast was such a great idea. It's why it's good to have other varying opinions to push and pull at. And look, again, if I was in charge of this thing, the Lighthouse wouldn't have been represented at all, and I would have missed out on the Best Supporting Actor of 2019. So look, that's why I'm glad that we're doing this together. That's why I'm glad that we were able to talk this out, because this just would have been an oversight. I'm happy for the Lighthouse fans. I'm happy for you and Willem Dafoe. So congratulations.
Do you want to bring up us not putting Brad Pitt on here? Because that caused a bit of a stir.
Yeah, so that was something that I don't think you disagreed with him being on there, but
we both, but at the last second, we were both just kind of like, oh yeah, let's just go. I didn't realize what it would do. I feel bad.
I don't feel bad per se. I do think it's just so obvious that he would have been nominated. Like, if he was going to be nominated for anything, obviously it's Best Supporting Actor for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But at the same time, I don't know. I think, who would you have put him in place of?
I mean, I think the call, just from the voting, I mean, Timothée Chalamet, but even then, I mean, it's so close.
But like, but even then, it's like, okay, so if he was in, do you think he would have won?
No.
I mean, Willem Dafoe got 758 votes, 47% of the vote. Would Brad Pitt have gotten more?
No,
I don't know.
Think so. I don't think so.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I believe you.
Let's go to Best Actress of 2019. Best Actress: Florence Pugh in Midsommar, Awkwafina in The Farewell, Scarlett Johansson for Marriage Story, Lupita Nyong'o for Us, and Saoirse Ronan for Little Women. Your winner. You can just guess it.
Yeah.
Guess it, audience. I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah.
Just
Why?
joking. Just joking. It's Scarlett Johansson.
Oh my God. Yeah.
With 794 votes, 49%. So real quick, ScarJo won Best Actress. ScarJo won Best Supporting Actress, and ScarJo also, won the MVP.
Wow.
Of 2019. Am I missing anything?
Is she president? I mean, she's winning everything. This is ridiculous.
I mean, a couple of her movies I think have won elsewhere. Avengers Endgame's won a couple of times. She plays a role in that. Oh, her and Adam for favorite scene and movie moment.
Oh my goodness.
Scarlett Johansson. I mean, what's funny is like if she would have been the MVP on our list, but other people won both of these categories.
Yes.
So it's like, of course she won the other two because we already decided that she was MVP. Just good for her. I mean, I've said it a million times already. I hate that I think Florence Pugh just got shut out entirely. I think that's the end of her representation. There's one coming up, but it's an absolute shutout. I just go on and say for Florence Pugh, which I hate because she's my favorite thing about 2019. But I also don't hate this. And also, look, this was the big switch that I referenced earlier from the podcast. We initially had Caitlin Dever in here. And at the very last minute, I took her out and put in Lupita Nyong'o at your suggestion. And she ended up coming in second place with 296. So that validates those decisions. How are you feeling about this?
I feel good. I mean, this is pretty much... I'm shocked that Awkwafina was fourth. I think that's the one for me that I thought would get second. But maybe, just maybe, not as many people have seen The Farewell. Or these other performances just spoke higher. But yeah, Lupita at second. Even though I pushed for her, I still can't believe she got second. I can't believe that many people voted for her, man. But
over Florence Pugh. Yeah. Crazy to me.
Yeah, I can't believe it. In Midsommar, which is something we both agreed on. I believe we both had her in our first place spot. So I'm glad she at least showed out with 224 votes. But man, you can't go wrong with Scarlett Johansson in this category. She was absolutely fantastic. The next category, Best Actor. This one's interesting as well. So we have Leonardo DiCaprio, Adam Sandler, Robert De Niro, Joaquin Phoenix, Adam Driver, and your winner.
We need to. Well, hold on, real quick.
Okay.
Adam Driver for Marriage Story.
Oh yes,
just because.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was in,
but everybody else was only in one movie.
Could have been literally. It could have been The Report. Could have been any of those movies. But yes, for Marriage Story, absolutely. But your winner is obviously Joaquin Phoenix with 58% of the vote. I mean, I think everyone at this point knows he's going to win the Oscar. I think everyone at this point knows he's going to win every category. I tried to set it up for a shock there, but the real shock for me is the first three getting a good amount of votes, and then those last two, Leonardo DiCaprio and Robert De Niro, just not a lot of love for those two, Ryan.
Yeah, well, I think that's one thing that I'm not ready to talk about it yet, but there's one thing that I'm kind of shocked our listeners agree with.
Yes.
With me on. I kind of discussed it already, but I'm going to wait and hold off on it.
Yes, I agree.
Until the end of the podcast.
I agree.
So, it's interesting that Adam Sandler came in third with 204 votes, just because he did have that backing with the best comeback.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm kind of shocked. Maybe I'm not shocked, because Adam Driver in Marriage Story has done pretty well too. But I am shocked that Adam Driver, there's like a 735 vote differential between Joaquin and Adam Sandler in third place. So I think that's just notable, if anything.
I agree with you, man. I really do.
Yeah. So we're down to the final two categories of the shindig. Let's kick it off with Best Director. This is it, the penultimate category. Our nominees are the Safdies for Uncut Gems, Greta Gerwig for Little Women, Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit, Sam Mendes for 1917, and Bong Joon-ho for Parasite. And your winner is Bong Joon-ho for Parasite with 47% of the vote. The master himself, Bong Joon-ho. Congratulations. He is doing very well for himself right now. I think Parasite stands the chance of being the Best Picture winner at the Oscars this year, but he's also just getting a lot of praise, and it's well deserved. What did you take away from this category?
I think, once again, the viewers and the listeners nailed it. I think they absolutely nailed it. This is actually, looking at this is probably my order. So we had Bong Joon-ho in first, Sam Mendes in second with 388 votes, Taika Waititi, Greta Gerwig, the Safdie brothers. Nailed it. And one vote separating Gerwig and Safdie brothers. I think that's the first time we've had a one-vote separation. So, yeah, man, what a show from everyone voting today. What a show. You picked the right winner here, and you've just been killing it all night long.
100%.
All right. So this is it. This is the final category. I cannot wait for everyone to hear the winner to this one. But first, let's read the nominees. So your nominees are, for Best Picture, Joker, Avengers Endgame, 1917, Marriage Story, Parasite, The Irishman, Knives Out, The Farewell, Little Women, Uncut Gems. And your winner, with 33% of the vote, is Parasite. Is your winner for Best Picture. We have been saying it the entire time. We've put our faith in the viewers and the voters to make the right decision. And this first, second, and third, Parasite with 523 votes, 1917, 258, Joker, 243, and then Endgame in fourth place. Now, I know a lot of people expected maybe, where I've got the MCU background and all this stuff, that the voters would, I think they did the right thing. I think they picked the best two movies, and the best movie, in my opinion, the most well-made movie of the entire year.
So, I think we sort of opened ourselves up a little bit. We decided to put in 10 movies, which invited criticism.
Yeah.
People threw out other titles. I think absent are Jojo Rabbit and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Yeah. Is there another one that's notable that you could think of?
Maybe no. Those are the two big ones.
Well, we sort of opened ourselves up to it. And look, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I'm lower on. That's why I didn't have a problem with it becoming the most overrated movie of the year. Yeah. And Jojo Rabbit is something that I'm very fond of. And I could have gone either way. Like, personally, I would have had Jojo Rabbit in there for The Irishman. But I also didn't feel right about just absolutely shutting out The Irishman, just because I know a lot of people enjoy that movie more. That's why you saw Joe Pesci in the Best Actor Comeback category earlier, and De Niro for Best Actor. So I could have gone either way with Jojo Rabbit and The Irishman. But other than that, I still feel very confident about what we came up with here. And yeah, Parasite was my favorite movie of 2019. So I'm super glad that everybody else feels the same way. It's also interesting, again, Bong Joon-ho just won Best Director on this list. So usually, it doesn't always come down to that the director and the Best Picture are the same. Sometimes the Best Director just goes to the more technical movie, and then Best Picture, maybe it goes to the movie that has the most social commentary or is the most relevant. Like, it doesn't have to be the same, but in this case it is, and I'm very happy because I agree with both. And yeah, it kind of almost doesn't matter what the other 9 nominees are because my favorite won.
Yeah, man. I just think the fact that there is a large separation between Parasite and 1917, and then those top, like I said, top 3, top 4, there's a huge separation because our last 2 movies, Little Women and The Farewell only got 14 votes. Now, it's a bit more difficult when there's 10 movies, I understand, but it was really this top portion of movies with Marriage Story kind of being the final one in that sixth spot, I believe, right? Fifth spot? Regardless, fifth spot. Okay, so 147, and then it drops off to Knives Out at 71. So it's those top 5, which could have made our Best Picture nominees, but man, that's right. 1917 is my favorite movie of the year. Parasite is the best movie of the year. That's Best Picture. That's what I'm pulling for Best Picture at the Oscars, and man, oh man, I am so freaking happy, dude. And not just my subscriber, man. Everyone listening on Movie House, man, I don't know what you're doing over there, Ryan, but you're doing something right.
Thank you so much. I wondered that, by the way. I was curious, like, how different would this list look if PJ was involved? Maybe it wouldn't have mattered at all. I mean, we have different tastes, but I mean, he was a little bit aggravated with the Lighthouse as well. But he loves The Irishman and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood way more than both of us do. So who knows? But other than that, I think the nominees, or excuse me, the votes spoke for us as well, and they didn't have to, but they did. I mean, for the most part, I'm satisfied all around.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy. I just think this went so well. You know, we didn't see people come in and obviously I'm happy with all of the nominees, but someone could have came in and put, you know, a random movie as the winner that no one expected to win one of these categories, or just voted ridiculously. And I have some people on YouTube that'll text their friends and be like, go spam Austin with mean comments, and they've admitted to that before. So I'm glad this didn't happen with our voting system here, man, and it turned out so well. So overall, I want to pose this question to you. What was the biggest takeaway from this awards ceremony, whether it's looking forward to the Oscars or just how you feel 2019 resonated with everyone as a whole?
Yeah, so, it's like what I've referenced a couple of categories ago. So the thing that I wasn't ready to talk about then that I am now, again, I think the validation that I felt, like when I felt like I'm alone in my corner, just like not really caring about The Irishman and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I felt a lot of validation there.
You're right, man.
Which it's like, for selfish reasons, I'm excited, but also it's just interesting because, again, it goes against the narrative that I've seen on film Twitter. So that's really what I've just been most impressed with, that there are people that are out there that not just because they agree with me, but because they push up against the narrative. And I think that the bigger story is Joker. Yeah. Because, again, I started to feel like Joker just takes a lot of hits from people. And our listeners and our fan base sort of rallied behind that movie and lifted it up. And, you know, I think the people that are anti-Joker, they look at a movie like Marriage Story and will praise that movie and say Marriage Story is the better film because it's an actual film that actually, but no, our audience also lifted up Marriage Story.
Yeah.
Our audience seems to be interested in multiple things and not just dismissive of one and favorable towards the other. It's a little bit more complex. And that's what I'm proud of here. I'm proud of our listenership. I've always said, I can't speak to your audience just because I don't know them that well. Yes. They don't know me. But I've been proud of the listenership that I've built. I think that they are very smart, and they're not trolly. And so kudos to everybody who was just thoughtful about film, whether certain things won or not. Those are my big takeaways.
Absolutely. And I mean, look at my background. It's a bunch of superhero posters and Marvel. So I honestly assumed that the majority of those who watch my videos and stick with me throughout everything that I do on that channel, I thought a lot of the vote would go towards Avengers and Joker winning these categories. And it still did, right? You saw second place, third place, pretty much every category was either Joker or Avengers. But for something like Best Picture, where I honestly don't think Avengers or Joker should win, represented for sure, should win. And guess what? They made the right decision. They picked Parasite. They picked 1917. And that makes me so happy to see where voters are right now and where their mindset is, and to see some of these things that maybe the Oscars overlooked, right? We got a little bit of love for Klaus. That to me says, well, maybe Klaus has a chance at the Oscars now. We got love for The Lighthouse, Willem Dafoe, that performance overlooked at the Oscars. I mean, so many things that we could point out right now and say, you know, and maybe we didn't nail every category, every nominee, and I agree with everything you said, Ryan, is there are a couple things that maybe I would even change now. But in terms of the winners of each category, for the most part, I think they nailed it. I think you all nailed it.
I agree 100%. So if in your comment section, if it wasn't someone like criticizing our decisions, it was someone else just saying like, this is the best awards nominations list that I've seen. Like, this is already that they had never heard of Movie House before. They didn't know that we were gonna do this a week ago. But when they saw our list and heard our discussion on the podcast, they decided that we actually ourselves did a great job for the most part coming up with these nominees. So I'm glad that it ended up working out for the most part for everybody involved.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I really do. So we want to thank you all for watching, for listening, for tuning in. I mean, this was so much fun. Ryan, don't know how you're feeling right now, what the temperature is, but I would love to come back next year and try this thing again because I thought it went so well.
I think we should definitely not only do it next year, but maybe come up with something else involving our audiences, involving those polls. Maybe we can do something else soon. That's not necessarily an award ceremony, but we can get some of that going up again. So we'll see.
Yes.
I don't know. Like, I'm not even teasing anything. I don't know, but I would like to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you, man. The utilization of everything that we did here was so much fun. Now, for the podcast listeners, if you all don't know where to find me, you can find me on youtube.com/Austin Burke, which is where you guys are watching right now, and Twitter and Instagram @TheBurkeinator.
That's right. So, yeah, I think that's something that, I don't know if we've touched on it yet, but you're probably watching this video first. If you're subscribed to Austin's YouTube channel, it's going to come out probably a week later or so on the Movie House podcast feed. So, hi, Austin's fans. My name is Ryan Snelling. I host the Movie House podcast feed. You can find that anywhere podcasts are found, except Stitcher, I think. But Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all of those places. Just search for Movie House. You will see the off-white and purple logo. And you can also follow it on social media @MovieHousePod on Twitter, on Instagram, and on Letterboxd. Letterboxd.com/MovieHousePod. And you can find me @WhatUpSnell on Twitter and Instagram. Austin, thank you so much for not only always partnering up with me on Movie House content, but for housing this video. I greatly appreciate your contribution to this, and I appreciate your fan base as well. So thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you, man. Thank you all from Movie House that made your way over to this channel or just listening. It was so much fun. And thank you all for listening, watching, voting, making this thing run. We could not do it without you. We wouldn't be here without you. So we both appreciate it. We'll be seeing you guys soon on the podcast feed, on the YouTube channel, and we'll catch you later.